Well, welcome to the Cinnabar. Now it occurs to me that we've shot 22s on this channel very little. So today we're going to change that in a big way. See, we're going to talk about Colt Lightning small frame 22 rifles. And since we're going to be shooting some of the better halves rifles today, I've invited her up to shoot hers as well. And of course, she's probably a whole lot easier on the eyes and probably a better shot too. So stick around, this ought to be fun. Now these Colt Lightning small frames are just dandy little 22 rifles. Now the medium frame Colt Lightnings came out in 1885, and these small frames came out just a couple years later. But they really didn't catch on like the medium frames did until later on. It was a good 10 years down the road before they started really producing them in numbers. And they really were becoming more and more popular when it went out of production in 1904. Now, well, the medium frames were fairly popular from the get-go, and then their production really waned about the turn of the 20th century. These small frames were becoming more and more popular. So most of these small frames, or the majority of them, were made right around the turn of the century or a little later, and then they went out of production in 1904. Now, these small frames were only chambered in 22 short and 22 long. And right at the end of production, 22 long rifle was becoming pretty popular. So I kind of think that Colt saw the handwriting on the wall. Either they're going to have to reconfigure these guns and start making them, chambering them in long rifle to be competitive, or just discontinue them. And they'd already discontinued the large frame Colt Lightnings, and in 04 when they discontinued the medium frames, they went ahead and discontinued these small frames as well. I kind of wish they had gone ahead and chambered them in long rifle, because I think they would have made a heck of a dandy little 22 in long rifle. Let's take a little closer look at the ones we've got here today. Now the vast majority of Colt Lightning small frames were just a standard configuration, like the two you see up front here. And we see some that are octagon barrels, some that are round barreled. I think probably, based on what I've seen, most of them are octagon barreled. There were a very few made that were half octagon, half round. Now this first one we see up front is what we would typically see with a Colt Lightning small frame, just a standard version. This one's been pretty well used, but it's still in decent shape. The next one is one that has been professionally restored, and that one's just a beauty. Even has a brand new barrel on it, and whoever did it even was able to get the Rampant Colt re-stamped onto the receiver. It's just a beautiful example of what looks like almost a brand new Colt Lightning small frame. Now we get into some special order rifles here. They're pretty unusual, and this third one is a real project. It's really been used and abused, but it not only is a half octagon barrel, but an extra length barrel. It's got a 26-inch barrel, and there were very few. We've only seen just a couple of these with a 26-inch barrel rather than a 24-inch, which was standard. And only, this is maybe the only half octagon we've ever seen. That's going to be a heck of a project someday. It's got a lot of pitting. We're missing some parts. This one isn't a shooter here. Now we get into one that's really unusual in that it's a pistol grip, but with straight grain wood. And we haven't gotten a letter from Colt yet to see if that stock is original to it, or if it should have been a deluxe version. That's the only straight grain pistol grip that I've seen in the past. Now this one's been cleaned, and it's going to be a good project as well. And when we get the letter and see exactly how it was when it was produced, then we'll make some decisions there. A lot of the deluxe models had color case hardened receivers, so if we decide to color case harden that one, we'll send that one off to Wyoming Armory. They do a fantastic job of color case hardening, and really reasonably priced, and a quick turnaround too, which is unusual today with folks that are restoring firearms. And then the last one is a true deluxe pistol grip. We can see it's got the checkered grips here and checkered pistol grip. These Colt Lightning rifles didn't use the black walnut that we see with the Winchester Deluxes, and they don't have quite as much figure in the stocks. We get more of a kind of a wavy look to them, like this rifle here. And this one was a color case hardened receiver, but it's kind of grayed out now, so we're not going to mess with that one. That's the original finish. This one's been cleaned, so all the finish is gone off of it, so it deserves to be restored. Okay, so now we've had a little look at them. time to see how they shoot now. Now, where the Colt Lightning medium frame and large frames are virtually identical, the large frame is just kind of an upscaled version of the medium frame. The small frames have quite a few differences. Some of the internals are different to handle these little 22 rounds, but the big difference is in how we load them. Now, the 22 small frame has a loading block that kind of slides out, a brass loading block here. And we still have a loading gate, basically a spring loading gate, but we load into that loading block like that, and then that little spring loading gate holds the cartridge in so we can load the other. Now, most other slide actions have an inner and outer mag tube and are loaded from the end of the magazine tube. So this is a really kind of a unique way that Colt designed these Lightnings to load. And we're loading some longs here. Of course, we can shoot either long or short, or if wanted to for some reason, you could actually load longs and shorts in the same magazine. And the other difference in how we load these from the medium frame and large frames is that we don't have to have the action open to load them. In fact, it has to be closed so that we can swing that block out. All right, now we got it loaded up. Let's see how it shoots. Well, you don't even really need hearing protection with those longs just barely make a little pop. Now this dandy here, I don't know if anybody shot this since it had a new barrel on it. Okay, so these are the two standard grade ones, and of course, for those of you who watch the channel, you know my wife's a collector of these Colt Lightning, so these two deluxes are hers, so we'll let her take over and shoot these for you. By the way, these two are for sale in the shop and on our website as well. All right, let's see how it's done, Cracker Jack.
All right.
Pretty good shooting, Annie Oakley.
See what you did to me?
I jinxed you the last couple of shots after calling you Annie Oakley, I think. And of course, we're going to have to shoot a jug before we put it away. And of course, if I have my choice, it'd be this beautiful deluxe small frame here that my lovely brides let me shoot today. So let's load it up with 5. Of course, not nearly as dramatic shooting milk jugs with 22 longs. Now 22 longs are getting hard to find, so are the shorts, but you know, the long rifles just won't cycle in these things. And the difference between a long and a long rifle is just the bullet length. The case is the same. So, you know, in a pinch, you can take about 75 thousandths off the end of a long rifle bullet, and they'll work just fine. Or actually, a long rifle will chamber in these, they just won't cycle. Okay, let's see about putting the hurt on that milk jug. Not too dramatic. Drilled it right in the center. I can see it. Okay, 5 for 5. That's a good looking and a good shooting rifle. Not a bad group. Well, thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Until next time.
Happy trails from the Cinnabar.